Ghost Stories. Stories to shock you. Ghostly tales of suspense and terror. The shade at the window. Jim Cotton got away with the murder of his Uncle Eli. Now, with Uncle's fortune in his possession, he was disposing of the junk. He went happily to the hotel suite he had engaged. That was where his happy feeling suddenly was stopped short. Uncle Eli? But you're dead! In the following days, Jim Cotton was possessed of haunting fear. Wherever he went, the face followed him. Then one night, Uncle Eli entered through the window, as big as life, you could say. There followed a coroner's inquest. It would appear Jim Cotton was a suicide. Killed himself with his uncle's gun. As trustee of the estate, I object, Mr. Coroner. That old pistol was sold at the auction. The buyer gave his check. Well, here's a record of the sale to a man named Stone. Stone? Eli Stone. Oh, no. Eli Stone was Jim Cotton's deceased uncle. The Monster of Dread End. Long empty of human life, the dark, decaying tenements of Dread End stare silently across at each other, as though still frozen in horror at the memory of the frightful scenes they alone had once been witness to. Time was when Dread End, then known as Hawthorne Place, was a busy, noisy, happy street that echoed to the sound of children's laughter. Then, early one morning, the first one was found. What's that? It was a balled up thing, like an empty wrapper thrown carelessly aside, but somehow still recognizable as having once been human. How do you write this one up, my lad? All right, back everybody, back.
Hey, my kid sister is missing. Her bed is empty.
For days, the police asked questions, but no one had seen or heard anything. A few weeks passed. Then, early one morning, "Get up, Sonny. You'll be late for school." Oh! Outside on the street, another balled up thing was found. Police! Inch by inch, the best brains of the best police department in the world combed the area. Nothing, Chief. Absolutely nothing. What now, Chief? I don't know. If this were only the work of an ordinary run-of-the-mill maniac. When, a week later, it happened again The panic-stricken inhabitants of Hawthorne Place began to flee, some even leaving their furniture behind. I don't care if we have nowhere to go, as long as we get away from here.
Hurry!
The few who remained boarded up their windows and double-locked their doors. That ought to do it. But again, the terror struck.
The twins are gone.
Completely baffled, the authorities could only evacuate the remaining tenants and declare the street out of bounds to all. As the years went by, fearful residents of neighboring blocks gradually moved away until finally, Dread End was surrounded on all sides by other silent, empty blocks. After dark, no one ever dared venture into even the outer fringes of this no man's land, let alone the very center of it, until tonight. Though only 7, when his little sister became the first victim of the Dread End monster, Jimmy White resolved that if the police didn't find her killer, someday he would. As Jimmy grew older, he became more and more obsessed with the idea that the killer still lurked somewhere on that sinister block. Now, at the age of 15, Jimmy feels he is old enough to ferret the monster out. Crouched in the shadows of an alley next to the house he had once lived in, Jimmy begins his lonely and fearful vigil. I wish I could be sure somebody will hear this police whistle. The hours drag by, but no sound disturbs the unearthly quiet of the dead, deserted street. When a faraway church bell tolls the hour of 5, Jimmy stands up to stretch. Dawn in a little while. I'd better be going. Maybe next time. Jimmy stops in mid-stretch, then quickly crouches back into the shadows. His whistle forgotten, Jimmy stares, unable to believe his eyes. Slowly, a giant claw-like hand, followed by a thick, sinuous, lizard-like arm, slithers out of the manhole. Slowly, like a blind boa constrictor searching for something, the hand gropes its way across the street and up the side of a wall, groping, searching. Suddenly, the boy's whistle slips from his trembling fingers and strikes the ground. Quick as a wink, the snake-like arm snaps back into the manhole. It's gone. Now's my chance to run. But it moves so fast. It could shoot out and grab me before I could... Too late. It's coming out again. This time toward me. Slowly, the hand gropes toward the Petrified Boy. It stops to explore a garbage can. Finding nothing, it crushes the can as though it were tissue. Then, to Jimmy's relief, it turns and gropes its way out of sight. Jimmy watches the repulsive arm continue to flow out of the manhole. It seems endless, but the more that comes out, the farther away the hand is getting. Then a sixth sense warns Jimmy, but too late. The monster has found him. Like a rattler, the claw strikes and closes on thin air. For a while, Jimmy somehow manages to duck and dodge the lightning-like thrusts of the terrible claw, but the end is inevitable. Certain of its prey, the claw hovers. Suddenly, a shattering series of explosions tear the night apart. Then, silence again. Jimmy opens his eyes and stares down at the great limp claw. Are you all right, boy? Sorry, we had to let it go so far, but we wanted as much of it out in the open as possible to make sure. You were here all the time? We've been here for years, son. And it might have been years longer if you hadn't shown up. Hey, look. Those large pore-like openings in the palm. It's fed by absorption after crushing its victim. Did you know it was there too? Yes. We'd seen it a few times, but it never came out far enough. Its sense of danger was so acute and its speed so lightning-like, we didn't want to risk only wounding it and letting it get away.
Your latest find, Bobby? What is it?
A wasp, Mother, but a very unusual one. There's nothing in any of my insect books that looks like him. This certainly is ferocious looking. Wasps are ferocious, Mother. They're the terrors of the insect world. I can't wait to show this to Professor Larvae. He'll know what it is. He ought to. One of the world's foremost entomologists. Funny, it seems to grow larger by the minute. I'm going up to the professor's house now, Mother. And don't worry, I'll be home long before dark. Please do, Bobby. I suppose you've heard about another boy disappearing last night? Yes, and as usual, it was a boy from the other side of the tracks. I'm sure all those boys were simply runaways, Mother. It's very unlikely that so many runaway boys would disappear completely. Please be careful.
Hi, Bobby. I can guess where you're going. Up to that crazy old Spider-Man's house.
Professor Larvae is not crazy, Bertha.
Anyone who wears a long overcoat, heavy gloves, and a net over his head all year round, even inside his own house, must be crazy. I've told you 1,000 times, Bertha, the professor is very allergic to bee stings. Somebody ought to tell the great insect expert that bees don't come out in the winter. He just doesn't want to take any chances at all, Bertha. It's too bad that people don't know the professor as well as I do. He's the kindest, gentlest, wisest person I've ever known. A professor isn't home. I wonder if I could leave the jar on the porch. No, it might get broken somehow. Maybe the back door is open. If it's open, I'll leave the jar inside, locked. I hate to carry this all the way home again. If I could only hide it around here somewhere. Perfect. I'll just set it down inside. Oh. Why, that sounded like a groan. Oh. Hello? Oh. Maybe the professor is sick. In there. Door isn't locked. What are all those? It's a human being, a boy.
I'm sorry. You blundered into the spider's larder, Bobby.
Spider's larder? Oh, I never saw your face before, Professor.
Few have, Bobby. And those who did never told about it. Come, Bobby. I'll wrap you nicely.
No!
The Werewolf Wasp! No! Don't!
No! Got to get help. Those boys may be all alive.
The Black Stallion. After sneaking away and enjoying an afternoon of totally unsupervised fun, two tired and slightly worried inmates of a summer camp for boys are now wending their weary way home. Only one of those sudden summer showers, Pudge. Probably be over in a few minutes. Well, lucky for us, that old barn is handy. The boys wait and wait. Gosh, isn't it ever going to stop? Are we going to get it for staying out after dark? Only thunder and lightning. Hey, look. A horse. A big black horse. Hey, boy, do you want to get hit by lightning? Come here. No, Greg, don't call him. I didn't know you were afraid of horses, Pudge. I never saw one with red eyes before. But probably has a cold in his head. All the more reason why he should come in out of the rain. Come on, boy. Run, Greg. Boy, are you chicken, Pudge? Watch. I'll have him eating out of my hand in no time. Look out, Greg. Hey, no, boy, down. Ah!
Stop! 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 Oh, Greg. Greg. He's kicking the hayloft down. He wants to get me too. Help! Help! Now he's kicking the barn down. Dazed, but miraculously unhurt, the boy lies under the wreckage of the collapsed barn, barely permitting himself to breathe. Pudge waits and listens for what seems an eternity. Not a sound. He must have got killed when the barn fell in. Finally, Pudge starts to inch his way through the darkness. I can't stay here forever. The very thought of accidentally touching the dead body of the murderous horse strikes terror in the boy's heart. But he must go on. Pudge was beginning to despair of ever finding his way out when he feels rain on his head. I made it! I made it without touching him. Still cautious, Pudge slowly pokes his head out and peers carefully in every direction. The coast is clear. Poor Greg. Poor Greg. I was the lucky one. Halfway across the open field, a nightmare figure looms up. Slowly, as though he knows the boy has nowhere to go, nowhere to hide, the demonic horse moves forward. Help me! Somebody, please help me! Jump aside, boy! Jump aside! Ah, you devil! Die! Die! No! Get away! Ah! Stop! Stop! Then the horse wheels back to Pudge. No! Help! Help! Stumbling blindly along the road, the hysterical boy is picked up by a motorist and taken into town, where he tells his story to the sheriff. The same story he told me on the way in, Sheriff. Sounds sort of fantastic, doesn't it? Sure does. After he calms down a bit, Mary, call his camp and ask them to send somebody for him. I'm going out to that place now. No, thanks. I don't think I'll ever feel like eating again. Later. Greg's body was there, all right, Mary. Killed when the barn was struck by lightning and fell on him. And that's for the record, of course. And the horse and farm boy, Jim? No horse and no farm boy. Both dead and buried a long, long while now, Mary. There aren't many left who remember, Jim. Guess I'm not like to forget, though. I was only 8 at the time. Same age as my pal Woody when I went
over there to play with him that rainy day. Saw his paw first, lying near the barn. Wasn't much left to look at after that fiend of a horse got through with him. Then, in the field, my friend Woody had put a heavy slug squarely between his eyes. The beast managed to live long enough to kill him. Beyond Science. After blastoff, I will explain the principles on which this rocket will reach outer space. As you know, I solved the passing of the Van Allen radiation belt. But the asteroid zone and the large radiation zone beyond have destroyed all outside space tries. We trust you fully, Professor Ground. We are now in the asteroid zone. We could be destroyed instantly, were it not for my new method. Come to the pilot's compartment. As you see through the window, we will crash in minutes unless I solve the problem. But don't be afraid. I have the answer. Yes, of course. This is beyond science, gentlemen. Kepler said many centuries ago that space could be conquered through witchcraft. And I agree. I have brought along a witch. So, rest easy, gentlemen.